Hey guys, I hope all of you are doing well. I'm Niladri Mukherjee. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. I am also the founder and the CEO of Nuvonation Immigration Consulting. In this video, I'm going to talk about how can you possibly apply for your parents' permanent residency under the humanitarian and compassionate aspect. And I am sharing this information after really working on a lot of cases with similar strategies that ended up become successful ones, right? So as we all know, right, if your objective is to have your parents staying with you for long term, you are essentially looking at probably two options. One is a super visa, for which you have to pay insurance. The other logical option, which used to be a logical option, I would say, is a parents and grandparents sponsorship. Now, after the whole lottery system and everything, we all know that it's not really easy, or I would say it's a matter of luck whether you can actually have your parents being sponsored or not, in spite of the fact that you are otherwise eligible for, right? So a lot of times clients came to me in the past and I have suggested them this approach. But if your parents do not stay with you, call them in for a visitor visa. Right now, regardless of whichever passport they hold, you typically they can typically stay with you for a period of 6 months in one go. But you can always extend that stay. You can extend the stay for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years, for 5 years, literally, right? So the objective is to have them with you, staying with you inside Canada on a visitor visa. If they have a visitor visa, call them in. Let them stay with you, all right? And then apply for their permanent residency under the humanitarian and compassionate grounds, provided you are able to substantially prove that why their presence is actually invaluable for you, and why, if this application does not work out, what are the kind of potential difficulties or the potential hardships that your parents will eventually face if they were to go back home, right? This kind of application is a discretionary application, right? So it depends on the discretion of the immigration officer, the reviewing officer, to pronounce either a positive or a negative decision on the file. That's fair. But majority of the times with good applications, what I see is a success. I'm not saying that if you put any application it's going to be successful, or that I will continue to see success in the future as well. But so far, at least my experience tells me that with proper application, with logical reasoning, those applications become successful ones. There are a couple of fundamental aspects that you have to keep in mind, right? Your parents will have to be inside Canada for all the time that this application is ongoing. You cannot really say that they have to go to the US, they have to go to India, they have to go back to Pakistan to take care of the job, business, whatever. No. If they do, so the whole application is, will be jeopardized. So let them stay with you. They will have to stay with you, or without you really does not matter. Ideally with you, but ideally inside Canada all the time that this application is going on. Typically, these days, as we are making this video in February 2024, you expect a decision time of about 12 to 14 months for a H&C application after the biometric is being done. So you submit that application, it's an online application. You typically have like 1 or 2 months for when we receive the biometric instruction request. They do the biometric, and then you wait for about in between 10 months to 14 months is what I have seen before they receive a decision, right? So that's the time that you're definitely looking to have your parents ideally staying with you and definitely inside Canada. That's fundamental. And it's a permanent residency application, so it's expensive in terms of government processing fees. My general suggestion is to not pay the right of permanent residency fee right away, because just in case the application gets refused, the refunds from the government of Canada really takes a very, very long time. So pay the government processing fees, but not the right of permanent residency fees right at the time you make that application. Have them come to you with an intimation, and then you make the payment. That's number two. Number three, because it's a permanent residency application, there are a couple of aspects. It requires a lot of documents, right? And all these documents need to be presented in a way that immigration appreciates. So sometimes, or rather many times, you see people miss out on the fact that they think that, well, providing documents is like provide whatever documents you have. That's not really the case. Make them understand your case. Spoon feed them, as I always say. Put everything into a platter, bring it in front of them so that they understand what your case is, and then join all the dots through a proper submission letter or with a letter of explanation as to how regulations 21.5, 25.1, sorry, is applicable to them, and why the minister should allow them to process their application under the humanitarian and compassionate ground. In other words, why the discretion should be exercised. Let them know. Without these things, probably this application is not going to work. Lastly, do not really think that if this application is not working, if this application is refused, this is it. No, you can still apply for a reconsideration, and sometimes I see even the reconsiderations work when it comes to this kind of agency application. But with good applications, I have all the reasons to believe that it has got good probability that it will be a successful one. So these days, at least from my experience, I could tell you this is something which is working. I'm not really sure how long this will be working. I'm not really sure how the parents and grandparents sponsorship program is going to evolve in the future. But as of right now, if your objective is to have your parents staying with you and you do not want to pay the higher insurance that is otherwise applicable for super visa, this is one of the options that you can potentially think of. Having said all that, I would like to conclude by saying that one more time, it's a discretionary application. So don't think that making an application, making a good application results in success. It does not. Even a good application is refused in the past. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. But all in all, this is something that works, at least for the majority of the cases. We as an organization, we are good enough experience to work in these kind of cases. We work on H&C a lot for parents, for otherwise, for failed refugee claimants, and a whole bunch of stuff, right? If you need me to assess your situation, feel free to book a relevant consultation through the website. I am based out of Mississauga here in Canada. Feel free to come to our office, book a relevant consultation, and then we can have a face-to-face discussion. If you are in and around GTA, we can do that as well. And if you are outside Canada, or if you are outside Toronto, Ontario region, you can definitely book a video call. I'll be more than happy to have a case-specific discussion with you, and we can go from there. Hope this helps. You guys in the next one. Bye now.